Come on here. That's how you say hello in Haiti. And typically, even if you're alone, the response is nous là. And that means we are here. And you say it with purpose, right? So come on here. Come on here. Hold that thought because we're going to weave it through the conversation that we'll be having. You know, I've been through some things, lived this life fully, went to some good schools, worked at large investment firms, built fast-growing enterprises, for-profit, nonprofit, lots of different things. And so when you see this in terms of what I've done over the last 20 years, there are a lot of typical assumptions, but they tend to be wrong because the journey I traveled is long. I started from the bottom, as they say. And during that journey from the bottom, there are lots of challenges, not least of which at least 9 near-death experiences. And through those experiences, there were a few key lessons that I learned, which I hope to impart to you that can be infused into whatever it is that you do, and I've used them with great success over time. In terms of the near-death experiences, they span a very wide spectrum. Machetes, guns, illness, drownness, you name it. I don't suggest anyone try it at home, but I'll walk you through the last one. I was 24 years old. I was sitting on a stoop in downtown Brooklyn. Back then, it was called Myrtle. I should have known better than to sit on such a stoop. And there were a couple people who walked by, and they saw me sitting there, and the young guy came up in front of me with a gun, put it in my face, and he said, "I think this is him. Let me take care of him." I looked up, and all I knew was I wanted to live. I was calm, and I said to him, "I think you're mistaken." And I was just sitting there. He looked at his friend. They looked at each other. They looked at me. His friend said, "Nah, I think, let's just keep it moving. I don't think it's him." And they ran. For me, it felt like an eternity. I'm sure it was probably a matter of seconds. I'm happy I made it through. But it led me to think, why is it that I wanted to live? Was it about me, or was it something bigger? And I realized that it was something much bigger. It was about community, and it was about purpose. It was post-ego, and it was something else. And since then, over the last 20 plus years, I've applied the idea of community and purpose to just about everything that I do. And over the last couple of years, I've been particularly focused on the venture space. You were here in San Francisco, the birth of venture capital. And venture has done a lot of great things over the last 50 years. Many of our most successful companies across the world were funded by venture in their early days. But there's a little secret that most don't realize. Venture could be a lot better, right? And 75% of venture funds barely break even. Many of them lose money. Even the top quartile, average top quartile venture fund returns about 2x. You'd actually do better just putting your money in the public markets. You get 11.7% year over year for the last 80 years, and you get 3x. So only the top 5% actually does really well. And so what this means is there's probably room for improvement. And lo and behold, those lessons that I learned in my near-death experiences work even in investing. So incorporating community and purpose tend to yield better returns across the board. How does that work, you might ask? Well, what is venture capital investing? It's sourcing effectively, it's evaluating effectively, it's supporting portfolio companies effectively. The traditional model has 2 or 3 partners, maybe a few advisors, doing all these things themselves, and it yields those results, typically. But the better model, if you have thousands or millions of people sourcing, the top of your funnel is just more robust, and that's a net positive. You have tons of people participating in evaluating companies, providing qualitative information that's transformed to quantitative information and scored, and that allows for a much more thorough process of analysis. And then when it comes time to support, instead of 2 or 3 people, you have a massive village. They need new markets, they need talent, whatever they need, you can provide, and it yields better results. So that's one part of the equation. The other part is what I mentioned before, purpose, right? In our case, we invested in over a dozen companies at GoodLight, and they tended to fall within the areas of climate and sustainability, health and wellness, education, future of employment, financial inclusion, using market-based solutions to solve for these challenges. It sounds like the right thing to do, and it is, but it's also just the smart thing to do if you want to make a lot of money Context, 2022, about $30 trillion went into ESG strategies, and that number is meant to increase to about $40 trillion by 2030. And so all boats rise that are involved in those areas, and these sectors tend to be counter-cyclical, so even in tough environments like the last few years that we've just gone through, wildfires in certain other areas, they're just going up, and resources need to go in that direction. And speaking of wildfires, let me share a quick case study with you. This is Pano. These are local heroes, Arvin and Sonia. We invested in their company. They use AI and IoT to prevent wildfires. They've already saved lives. They've been growing massively. And we applied our model. We use community to help source, evaluate, and support this company. It's clearly purposeful. And we came in at a very low valuation. And even in this current environment, they raised tons of capital at much higher valuations than what we came in. And this is not an anomaly. This is the norm when you incorporate community and purpose into your investment strategy. What would I like you to take away? I believe that community and purpose, moving post-ego, is something that you can incorporate in anything that you do, especially venture investing. I absolutely do not suggest that you go out and try to face your mortality 9 times anytime soon. It doesn't usually work out very well. But I highly suggest you take my idea, run with it, apply it to what you do, and also look to collaborate with us so that we could run quicker, because it's going to take all of us. So with that, I leave you where we started off. Komoye, nula. Komoye, nula. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.